Hello, welcome to Hatha Yoga Beginner 6-Week Series. This is going to be a 6-week series that you can build upon. And I was inspired to create this practice from my teacher training. So I just recently finished my 500-hour teacher training. But in my original 200-hour, we were told to teach students beginner, intermediate, and then advance, and then start to slowly build them up into their practice. Unfortunately, our modern day yoga studios are not set up that way. We do have beginner classes, and then it just seems to be flow and, power. And there seems to be no true buildup. And even I took my son to a beginner class recently to a teacher I love, but he threw in headstands because there were advanced students in the class. And I was like, that's really intimidating. And you're not actually honoring the students that are coming to be a beginner, right? And so this first 6 weeks is going to feel a little bit silly. A lot of it starts on the ground, really releasing hamstrings, long, gentle holds, but it's designed to really help you get that flexibility and mobility so that we can start to build faster. We also will add in just a little bit of yoga philosophy, breath work, and meditation. If you have to log off early, that's perfectly fine. Log off whenever you need. I will also be sending out the video so you have the video yourself. And then I will send you out like a little quick PDF that will give you some suggestions on what to do every day. The practices that we've done today, but also a little suggestion on how to have your own practice at home. Because the idea of this program and truly, really yoga classes is to actually help the students cultivate their own personal practice at home. So to not be dependent on the studio, to kind of be able to go home, travel, do whatever you need, and know what you can do for your body that's going to serve your body. So before we get started, the first thing that we're going to learn is how to sit properly. So I am sitting on what's called a zafu. I love this thing. It's super comfortable. Not everyone has one. You can either use like a pillow, you can fold up a blanket, you can utilize a block. I'm going to turn to the side, but how we want to sit on this, and it sounds really elementary to go over this, but you want your sit bones evenly placed either on the block or the cushion. And my butt isn't all the way on that block. I have a slight tilt in my pelvis. That way I'm gently tipping forward with a light arch throughout my low back. Then when we come to our feet, this is called Sukhasana. We want one foot in, and I usually start with my left. And then I allow my right to come in front. So from here, you're going to find that natural arch through the low back. And then I want you to roll the shoulders up towards the ears and allow them to drop back and down. Lengthen through the crown of your head. Feel the head lift up towards the ceiling. Perfect. And this is our perfect seated posture. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And let it go. I want you to take one hand to the belly, one hand to the heart, and I want you to fill up again. Take a deep breath in and let it go. Now, this next time that you breathe in, I want you to really bring your attention and awareness. Notice what hand is moving. Deep breath in. Long breath out. So not judging it, not trying to fix it or change it. Just notice what hand is moving as you start breathing here. Just a few more cycles of breath, just witnessing it, that's all. And when you're ready, release the hands, open the eyes. So in just a moment, we're going to lie down and we're going to go into what's called the complete yogic breath. So this is the very beginning breathing pattern. And we want you to draw the air down into your belly, starting with filling up the belly, 40% into the belly, 40% into the rib cage, and then the last 20% into your chest. Oftentimes throughout our day, when we're not conscious of our breath, it is this like chest breathing. Everything's up here. It's really shallow. And then when that happens, our thoughts start to speed up. Our energy just starts to get a little bit more, what's the word, frantic. And we start to feel like we're having a little bit of an anxiety attack. And that's because we're only getting about 20% of our breathing and lung capacity. But when we take that breath down into our belly, we're getting about 80% more air in. And it allows your mind to be a little bit calmer. It allows you to be a little more focused and present in the moment. So it's my favorite thing to teach because it's super simple to just kind of shift how you're feeling just with your breath. So when you're ready, find your way onto your back. And I said earlier, if you have any props or anything, by all means, please use them. I know not everyone has them, but if you do, please use them. You do not need blocks here, but let's say if when you lie down, this doesn't feel good for your low back, you can always place some blocks right underneath the thighs, and that helps you flatten the back out a little bit and takes a little bit of tension off the low back, especially if you have like a bigger bum. Some people just have bigger bums and a deeper curve through their low back, and it's not comfortable. So if it feels good, start to find a little length through the low back and allow the arms to just rest out by your side. I want the feet to fall out to the side, and can your palms face up towards the ceiling? Now, can you gently squeeze the shoulder blades together, drop the shoulders down, and allow them to release? And from here, keep the eyes open. This isn't Shavasana yet, but this is our corpse pose. Take one hand, allow the right hand to go onto the belly, and the left hand to go onto your chest. And just like we did in that seated posture, start to notice your breath. Take a few breaths here as you take the air in through the nose. And allow the air to release from the nose. Just take a few moments here, just starting to witness. Lying on your back, I find, is a little bit easier to start to notice this breathing pattern. That's it. Now from here, can you keep the hand on your chest super still and think about belly button, think about 2 inches below the belly button, place that second hand, and I want you to think about drawing the air in through the belly and pressing that right hand away. Once you've done that, can you fill up a little bit more through the rib cage? Pause. And then now maybe just a little bit in the chest. Keeping the mouth closed, slow exhale out the nose. Again, belly, rib cage, chest, long exhale out the nose, starting with the chest, then the rib cage, then emptying everything out of the belly. Take a few more moments here, just connecting back to that breathing. In through the nose. And out through the nose. Over these next few cycles of breath, can you challenge yourself to not rush through this? Allow yourself to fully fill up from the belly. Add the rib cage and then the chest. That's it. Give me about 4 more cycles of breath here. And if it feels good, allow the arms to rest down by the side. That's if you can continue to intentionally draw the air into the belly, then the rib cage, then the chest. And you notice as you're breathing here, are you holding any tension in the shoulders and the jaw and the arms and the legs? With every exhale, can you allow your body to just melt a little bit deeper into the mat? Last 3, 2, and 1. If you allowed your eyes to close, allow them to open back up. And I want you to cactus out the arms. So the back of the hands, the elbows, and the shoulders are going to stay glued to the mat. Take a bend into your knees. I want the feet flat onto the mat, probably about hip distance or a little bit wider. So in class, whenever you hear me cue hip distance, I'm always talking about those hip bones. Those hip bones stay the same, but our outer hips change. So I want you to align with the hip bones, and if I need you to be wider, I'll cue for that. Find a little windshield wiper of those knees from side to side for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Come back through center. I want you to inch the feet together. Now I want you to lift the hips up just an inch or 2, and only the hips are moving. The hips are moving to the left. Drop them down. Float the legs up into tabletop. Drop the knees to the right and turn and look towards your left. Now, if you have any low, not necessarily low back pain, but any slip disc in the low back, don't lift the knees up and drop them, just drop them straight down from that bridge. So if you have any issues, just drop them straight down and allow that to be your twist. But if you're fine there, lift the knees over to the right and then look to the left. If you want to add depth to this pose, you can take that right hand on top of the left thigh and just allow yourself to breathe into this twist. On the inhale, I want you to feel the belly expand. And on the exhale, I want you to zip up through the core, empty all the air out, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then deep breath in and long breath out. We're still connecting back to that yogic breath. But you might notice my breathing now has a slight restriction through the back of the throat, and that's called Ujjayi breathing. So Ujjayi breath is to help deepen your practice. And one of the reasons why that we start to add that sound in, back in the 1920s when Krishnamacharya was introducing Ashtanga back into the people rather than just yogis doing it, or yogis were doing performative yoga, he was teaching a lot of foreigners, and his language, they didn't always communicate well. And so how he knew they were on top, he made everyone breathe in together nice and loud and exhale together. That way they could all stay in rhythm and in sync. Take a few more cycles of breath here. Notice if you can soften anywhere. Notice if you can relax through the low back. Feel that left hip drop a little bit lower. Last 3. 2. And 1. Before moving, bring your awareness to your core. In everyday terms, we call these Kegel muscles when we zip up and in. In yoga, we call it Mula Bandha. So I want you to activate, embrace the core. It's going to support your lower back as you float the knees back through center, land the feet, bring the bum back through center. We're going to do that again on the second side. Lift the hips up just an inch, swing the hips to the right, float the knees, and then drop the knees to the left as you turn and look towards your right. Again, left hand to the right thigh, exhale, twist. In Sanskrit, this word is called, and I never say it in Sanskrit, but because we're doing beginner classes, I feel like we should really add in the Sanskrit. Jatara Parivartanasana, revolving stomach pose. I've always called this double leg twist, but in classes, it's just nice to kind of know the names of the poses. Again, notice if you can press that right shoulder deeper into the mat. And then on your exhale, can you empty everything out? Last 4. 3. 2. And 1. Again, consciously zip up through the core to support your lower back. Float the legs through center, land the feet, and then even up. We're going to go on to that wind relieving pose, that Pawanmuktasana. So I want you to float the right knee in towards your chest, hands wrap around that shin, and then take it just slightly to the outside edge of the rib cage, and then hug it down. Now, option A, if it feels good for that left leg, you can extend, but we don't let that left leg just hang out to the side. I want you to flex the left toes back towards the nose as you press that left heel into the mat. So just because we're working on the right side, the left side still stays active. Let the shoulders drop away from your ears. Perfect. Last 4. And just like in that twist, use your breath to help assist you to get deeper into the pose. Allow your belly to kind of press up against that thigh as it expands, and then exhale, hug it in. Last 3. 2. And 1. Move the hands behind the thigh. Keep the thigh close in towards the chest, and then just straighten the leg just a touch to feel that nice little stretch, and then bend into the knee. Let's do that again. Press the heel up towards the ceiling for that light stretch, and then bend into the knee. 1 more. Press the heel up towards the ceiling, and then add a little point and flex. I feel like this warms up the hamstring for what we're about to do. Take a bend into that knee. Now, I did not tell you to grab a strap or to grab anything else. And the reason why is sometimes when we grab a strap, we don't get to access enough of the stretch that we can with our own body. So I want you to take those peace fingers, lift up, wrap them around the right big toes. Now, if this is not accessible, by all means, please grab, you can grab a towel or a strap. If you cannot reach, you're welcome to. But what I want you to do is, the reason I like using the hand is it keeps everything in towards the ribcage and belly. Then from here, the heel is what you want to think about pressing up towards the ceiling. Now stop there. Pause. Notice I still have a bend in that knee. Take a breath here. Still stay active through that left side. Maybe you even place your left hand on that hip to remind you to stay heavy and grounded through the left. Inhale. Exhale. Now start to press and straighten that leg up towards the ceiling. And whenever I say straighten, I mean straighten for what works for you and your body. Not what you think that it should look like, not what I'm doing, but what feels good for your body. And if it's that bend in the knee, that's perfect. Can you plug that shoulder down into the mat? Drop the shoulder away from your ear. Beautiful. Now, left hand stays planted on that left hip to remind you to stay heavy. Can you open that leg up just a few inches to the right? Not very far, just a few inches. Take it a few more inches. A little more. Now, when you get to a point where you're like, Brittany, I'm rolling to the right, then you've gone too far. I want you to stay plugged into the mat and only go so far that your body can maintain the pose, right? We don't want the poses. We're not trying to force the poses to work for our body. We want the pose to meet our body right where it's at so your body can start to soften into it. When we try to move and force our body into places where we think it should be, we actually halt our growth and our flexibility. When we start meeting the body where it's at and allowing it to feel safe and secure in the pose, it actually starts to relax a bit more. You even have the option, if you ever want to hold this here longer, of allowing a block to go under the thigh, because then you're starting to send that signal to the body, okay, relax, relax. And then you'll notice after a few moments, you can remove the block and maybe you've got a little more range. Notice if you lock out in the knee, can you have just a softness to the knee? I don't need a deep bend, just a softness here. Now, just like we did in that twist, I want you to zip up through the core, squeeze the glutes. It makes bringing that leg through center even easier. Perfect. Hands come behind the back of the thigh. Lift the neck and head up. Walk the hands up, pull that leg closer in. Slowly walk your hands down the leg and allow that right leg to meet the left. Take a moment here, just allowing yourself to kind of enjoy and notice how much looser and nicer it feels on the right side of your body. Maybe that right leg feels a little bit longer. Inhale. Exhale. Float the left knee in towards your chest. Pawan Muktasana. Now, flex the right toes back towards the nose. Remember, we still stay active through that right side. Drop the shoulders away from your ears. And then just hold here. Can you gently pull that left hip down slightly? You don't need to squeeze and force anything here. But use the exhale to hug that thigh a little closer in. That's it. Hands are going to move behind the back of that thigh. Keep the hug in. Pause, and then just press that heel up towards the ceiling, and then bend it back. Press the heel up towards the ceiling. Bend it back. Press the heel up towards the ceiling. Find a little point and flex of the foot. And then again, bend back into the knee. Eka Pada Supta Pada Gustasana. These words, man, I'm learning a whole other language. Press that heel up towards the ceiling, but remember, we're keeping a bend in the knee first. We're allowing our body to soften into the pose, right? That's why we straightened and bent the leg a few times to kind of warm up that hamstring. Now just adding your hand to the foot, adding a bit of tension. Now that we've been here for a few moments, press the low back into the mat. Keep active through the right palm on the right hip. Inhale. Exhale. Maybe you straighten the leg a little bit more. Maybe it's just half an inch more. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. What's funny is going through the programming for this 6 weeks program is there's no child's pose, there's no downward facing dog yet. It's just taking your time and really slowly easing and warming the body up. Whereas some of these poses that we're taught are beginner poses or resting poses aren't always great for everyone's bodies. We have to warm up the hamstrings, get the hips a little more mobile, get everything more mobile before going straight into those poses. Now, remember to stay glued through the low back. Slowly open that leg out to the left. Take your time, take it nice and slow. Maybe only go a few inches and then you pause. Am I still connected through my low back? Are my shoulders starting to creep up towards my ears? Drop the shoulders down, reconnect the low back to the mat. And again, open it out to the side a little bit more. That's it, coming back to that nice steady breathing. Last 3. 2. And 1. Slowly guide the leg back through center. But what do we do first? Zip up through the core, squeeze the glutes. It makes it easier. Then hands come behind the back of that thigh. Lift the neck and head up to meet that knee. Walk the hands up the leg and slowly pull that leg closer in. Slowly release the left leg to meet the right. Take a moment for just a second in that Shavasana. Take a bend into the knees. Drop both knees to the right and allow the upper half of your body to roll with you into a little C curve. Now, when we lift up, I want you to because we've rolled to our right, I want you to allow that right ear to rest on the right shoulder. Let it stay heavy as you rise on up. Then use that hand to bring the head back through center. We jerk the head around a lot, and it's a lot of tension for the neck and head. I want you to swing those legs through center. Baddha Konasana. Soles of your feet together, knees open wide. Now, if you look at me, my legs are really close in towards my groin. Not there for everybody, and that's okay. Maybe yours looks a little bit more like a diamond shape. What I want you to prioritize is both sit bones on the ground, no discomfort in the knee. If this is where you are, that's perfect. I can go really close, but there gets to be a point where I come too close and my knee starts to talk to me, and that's my signal to back off just a touch. Now, option hands for the feet or hands to your ankles. Draw the shoulders away from your ears. Some disciplines say to just allow the knees to rest. Some disciplines say, especially for women, it's really nice to kind of flap and butterfly those legs for just a little bit. There's another style of yoga called Pawan. I can't think of the entire name, but it adds kind of fun, funky movements like this. Last 3, last 2, last 1, pause here. Now, I'm going to turn to the side because I want you to notice we're going to lean forward, but this is not my lean. Just because I can touch the ground, this isn't serving my body. I want you to lift the chest, draw the shoulders away from the ears, lengthen through the crown of the head, and then hinge forward. Now notice, I'm not going as far, and that's okay. I want to feel the stretch throughout my hips and my low back. I'm not causing any additional tension through the neck and head. My head is in line with my spine. If you cannot touch the ground, blocks come in handy here. Maybe you rest the hands on the blocks. Maybe you allow the blocks to help you extend a little bit further. And just like all the other poses, let's use our breath here. Inhale, maybe I back off just a touch. And then on that exhale, maybe you lean forward and find a little more depth in the pose. Last 4. Can you feel your sit bones plug down and back? Last 3. Last 2. Last one, inhale as you rise on up. Janu Sirsasana. We're going to straighten, keep the left leg just as it is. Straighten that right leg. So ideally, the hip bones are facing forward. If it feels better to have a little bit of external rotation through that left hip and a little opening, that's perfectly fine. But what I want you to prioritize is this right leg is still active. We're going to go into a fold, and I have a little engagement of my quad. This isn't forced. It's nothing too tight. And just like we did earlier, lengthen through the spine, then allow the hands to relax. Again, this is not the pose. There are different styles of yoga practice, and Hatha, while we do take things a little bit slower and hold a little bit longer, the poses are still yang, so active. You'll hear a term called yen. Yen, we're there from anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. And that's where you can allow the body to relax and melt into the pose. But here we're working on a little more active postures. It feels passive because we're holding and we're not doing anything. Last 3. 2. Inhale as you rise on up. We're going to step that left foot on the outside of that right knee. Now, when we go into the next pose, if it doesn't work for your body and you cannot keep both sit bones on the ground, this is going to be bus stop number 1. This is going to be your pose. This is Ardha Matsyendrasana. If it feels okay and you can keep the sit bones even, bend into that bottom right knee. The heel goes towards the bum. You come back through center, pause. So again, assess, does this feel good or am I forcing it? Because I think that's where my body should be, right? If it feels better, extend the bottom leg. Lift the chest. Inhale that right arm high. Option to hook or hug that knee in towards your chest. Left hand goes behind the back. Now, I want you to keep the neck and head super still. Inhale. Now, exhale, left shoulder presses back. Notice I'm not turning for my twist with my head. Our neck and head is super flexible. That's not what we're trying to twist here. We're twisting from the belly. Now, once you're like, Brittany, that's as far as I can go in my twist. Take a full breath in. Exhale, turn and look over that left shoulder to deepen the pose. Allow your eyes to guide you a little bit deeper. Where the eyes go, the body follows. So if you're starting to look over to the left and not really twisting, your body's not going to twist that far. But once you've taken it as far as it can go, the eyes will help you go deeper. We're going to be doing a reading today from what's called the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And it was written in the 15th century about yoga and how to do the true yoga practice. And this is one of the poses. This one and that Baddha Konasana are one of the 10 poses that they write about. They say there's about 84, but in the book, these are the 10 most important ones. And this one is a part of it. So either you focus on your breathing or They say to focus on that belly chakra. Earlier, when we were going over our breathing pattern, I was telling you to focus 2 inches below the belly button. That's our Muladhara. I apologize. That's our Manipura. So our belly chakra. So you're gonna think about zipping up and in and squeezing all the air out. Let's add a little neck and head stretch to this. Keep the body right where it's at. Inhale. Exhale, turn and look over that right shoulder. But continue to feel the left shoulder press back. Inhale. Exhale, turn and look back over that left shoulder. Inhale as you slowly, gently unwind, taking your time. Extend that left leg. Extend the right leg. Take a moment, shake it out, whatever you need. Bring the legs back through center. A light little flex of the toes back towards the nose, and see if you can press the knees down. If you need a little bend in the knees when we go into the fold, by all means, you can bend into the knees, or if you have blocks, it's nice to bring that belly up closer, or knees up closer to the belly. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, lean forward. Now remember, it's not around. Allow the hands to reach for the feet. If you can hold on to the feet without rounding and hunching, grab onto the feet. Feel like you're pulling your chest forward and you're gluing the shoulders back. Then tuck that chin in towards the chest, hold here. It's our Paschimottanasana. This is another one of the poses that they incorporated that are some of the most important poses to do. And once you start learning the foundational poses and your body can start to get deeper into the poses, then you can start to add on, change things up. Explore different variations. There's a way to incorporate this into a core pose or a core workout. Last 3. 2. And 1. Inhale as you rise on up. We're going to go through that on the second side. Janusirsasana, second side. That right foot's going to go on the inside of the left thigh. Make any adjustments that you need. Flex the toes back towards the nose. Light engagement of that quad. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, lean it forward. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. That's it. Notice where you feel this stretch in the body, whether it's in the hamstrings, the low back. Can you start to shift your attention and awareness there and start to deepen the breath? Last 3. 2. And 1. Taking your time, slowly rise on up. Right foot steps outside the left knee. Treat this side as a brand new pose. So whatever you did on one side, it might be different on this side. Bend into that bottom knee. If it serves you, if not, keep that leg straight. Bring that thigh closer in. Lift that left arm or hug. Left elbow, right knee. Inhale, lift the chest, fill up the belly. And then exhale, find your twist. Use that left elbow to press against that right thigh to get deeper into the twist. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. Grow tall through the crown of your head. Inhale. Now exhale, let the neck and head complete that twist. Breathing in here and through the nose and out. Long breath in. Long breath out. We're going to add that neck and head stretch. Keep the body in the twist. Inhale. Exhale, turn and look over that left shoulder as far as you can. Inhale. Exhale, turn and look back over that right shoulder. One more breath here. Inhale as you slowly unwind, extend the legs out, give it a little shake. Cross at the ankles. I want you to rise up onto the knees. Come to standing on those knees. If this doesn't feel good, double up the mat. Support yourself. You do not have to be in any pain. We're going to go into our, I never knew what this name was. It's called Tadasana, our gate pose. I always called it gate pose, but never knew what it was called. Some teachers say point the toes straight out. If that feels good, point them straight out. I personally like a slight internal rotation and press my foot the outer edge, but listen to what feels good for you. But the hips are in one line. That right hand's going down the right leg. If you did the wrong side, I don't think I cued a side, so don't worry about it. We do both sides evenly. It's not a big deal. That left arm lifts and we reach over. Now, in this pose, this is like a modified triangle pose. Reach, reach, reach all the way through those fingertips. This is not the pose. That is the pose. Those fingertips are as much involved in this pose as everything else. Sometimes I like to add a little neck and head stretch here by allowing that right ear to go to the right shoulder, and then maybe letting that left hand go behind the back. And then maybe you add that right hand to the side of the head. Now, if this feels a little bit wobbly, what do? We zip up through the core, a little tuck of the tailbone, squeeze the glutes. First, release that right hand. Left arm comes up. Use the hand to lift the head up. Release the hands, bring that knee back in. And if this is wobbly for you, blocks are your friends. Allow yourself to find a little support while you make your way into the pose. If the knee doesn't feel comfortable, add it up, right? Meet yourself right where you're at. Second side, left hand down the left leg, right arm reaches up and over. Draw that shoulder back so you are open through the entire front half of your body, and continue to reach, reach, reach with those fingertips. You're going to feel this nice, beautiful stretch all the way down that right side of the body. Again, we can add in that gentle neck and head stretch. Allow that left ear to fall to the left shoulder. Right hand goes behind the back. Maybe you gently allow the hand to just rest on the side of the head. There's no pressure. I'm not pushing down. The weight of my hand is adding to that stretch. That's it. Last 3, 2, 1. Bring that right arm up. Left hand can support the head as it comes back through center. Release the hands. Release the knee. We're going to walk the hands out, and I want you to come to my side. Yeah, I'll do it from my side. We're going to come straight onto our belly. Forearms to the mat. Allow the elbows to hug back towards the belly button as you pull the chest through. Now, this is going to be more active to start. Tops of the feet onto the mat. Pelvic bone presses into the mat. Elbows hug towards the belly button. There was a book written about this pose specifically to help low back pain. And it can be just as simple as laying on your belly, punching through the shoulders and letting the head relax. just doing this, if you have a lot of back pain, I used to have a lot of low back issues, and one of my yoga students actually taught me about it. And then it came up again in my 500-hour training, and I think it was, the gentleman was McKenzie, and that wrote the book, McKenzie, and something about Sphinx pose and back pain. I don't know if you can Google it, but anyway, this is a really just nice pose where you don't even actually have to be active here. So just notice the difference. Let's try it out. Press into the mat, pelvic bone presses into the mat. Feel that lengthening through your lumbar or your lower back. Heart pulls forward, lengthen through the crown of the head. Notice I'm not looking up when I do this. I'm creating tension in my neck. We want to release that, lengthen through the back of the neck and head. Now, what does it feel like to just kind of relax into it? Relax the glutes, relax the feet, let the head drop down. Still getting that nice low back release. Slowly, gently, hands come to heart center, tuck the toes under, press up onto the knees, tabletop. Sit your butt towards your heels and then rise on up. We're going to go into our wide straddle fold. This is one of our second. We've got about 3 more poses to our practice. This wide straddle pose. Uttanasana Konasana, wide angle seated forward bend. Now I want you to take the heels nice and wide. Take a moment, pause here. Toes flex back towards the nose, dig the heels down. Hands go behind your back. And I want you to lift the chest. And then maybe as you dig the heels in, you press the hips a little bit further forward. Then walk the hands through center. Notice how that feels. Now, a lot of guys have problems with this pose where this is their pose. They're rounded through their spine. This is that pose. Hips. Let's bring our awareness to the hips. We've got posterior pelvic tilt. That's where we tuck it forward. We want to think about anterior pelvic tilt, where just like we did in that seated posture, you find a little tilt in that pelvis. So sit bones reach back slightly, and then you find a little more room here. Find a little external rotation of the toes, lift the chest, and then maybe you can lean forward just a touch. Just like all the other poses, this is not our forward fold. We want to get out of that habit here. Lift the chest, pull the heart forward. Maybe even like to use the toes to pull yourself forward to keep you in line. Or you have the option of letting your hands rest on blocks. But again, think about that integrity in the spine and the sit bones reaching back. Allow the shoulders to drop away from your ears. This type of yoga that we're doing right now is also really great because it's preparing your body for nighttime. Vinyasa flow classes, I love them. They're my favorite things to go to. They're my favorite things to teach. You get to be creative and challenge yourself, but they're not always best for our nervous system. So if you've had a really stressful day, if you've got a lot going on in your life, if you do heavy weights and high intensity interval training, doing a vinyasa flow practice is not always going to serve your practice and serve your body. We want to take that nervous system out of the sympathetic and gently shift it into that parasympathetic so you can start to rest and digest, right? If you could talk, I'm sure you'd say yes, right. Inhale, rise on up. Take your hands behind the back of the knees. I want you to soften those knees and gently bring the legs back together. Find a little movement in the legs, whatever you need to do to release that deep stretch. It can be quite intense. Release, release, release. And then I think we just have 2 more poses here. And then you get a nice, juicy Shavasana. Now from here, I want you to take your time, slowly lower onto your back. We're going into what's called Setu Bandha, our bridge pose. Traditional bridge, inner thighs, heels are touching, inner thighs come to touch. Now, if that's hard for you or doesn't feel comfortable, because this is actually a lot more challenging than feet hip distance apart, hip bone distance, you have the option of a little separation of the feet, but bring a block in between the thighs. One of the reasons why Setu Bandha, we keep the inner thighs together is so when we lift, don't do it yet, I'm just going to demo. When we lift, the knees, people have a tendency to roll onto the edges and let the knees fall open as they lift. Now, you can do that intentionally to work the inner thighs, but we're not doing that here. So option A is to bring the legs together, let everything touch. Option B, use a block or a pillow, something that you can squeeze onto, hands by your side. Now, can you find a little length through the back of the neck and head? I don't need you to flatten that curve out. Just find a little length. Shoulders drop away from your ears, palms press down. Starting at the tailbone, feel as if the knees are reaching forward. Start to lift up. Pause at the 45-degree angle. I don't want you going higher than this. Inner thighs squeeze together. Light engagement of the glutes. Zip up through the core. Pause here. Higher than this doesn't always serve everybody. If you have no lower back issues, this feels good. Maybe lift a little bit higher. Can you keep the inner thighs squeezing together? We're here for 5. Long, steady breathing in through the nose, out through the nose. 4. Keep the inner thighs squeezing together. 3. 2. And 1. Lower down. Beautiful. Inhale, try it now with the feet a little bit wider. I want feet hip distance apart, hands by your side. Lift the hips up now into your bridge. Notice what the knees want to do. If they want to start to open out wide, feel the inner thighs come together as you lift the hips higher. Keep breathing here. Last 3. 2. Slowly, gently lower down. And I want the feet to come together, knees open wide, Supta Baddha Konasana. Allow the lower back to rest into the mat. Pause here. You just want to take a few moments to let that low back settle. I've heard a few kind of counter arguments. There's one school of thought that believes over the age of, I think it's like 25 or 28, you don't want to hug those knees in towards your chest because that's what you feel like you want to do after a bridge is hug everything in and kind of release that low back and everything. But we've got cartilage in between those, our spine and those vertebrae. And so you want to allow the back to settle before hugging everything in just for a few moments. And then you have some school of thought where some physios are like, the back isn't that fragile. I like to caution on the air of safety and give your back a moment to settle because I know everyone has different issues. Now, hands go on the outside edges of your thighs. Close your thighs like a book. Ananda Balasana, our happy baby. Float your legs into tabletop. Now, bus stop number 1, if you cannot hold on to the feet, hands are going to come behind the back of the thighs. And like that wind relieving pose, hug those thighs in towards the chest, flatten your back into the mat, kick the feet against, away from the bum. My feet are wide. My feet are parallel to the ceiling. That's option A if you cannot grab the feet. Option B, lift up, hands on the outside edge or peace fingers to those big toes. Feet separate, knees plug in towards the armpits. Lower back flattens into the mat, heels press up towards the ceiling. So you have this light pull and press action. Sometimes we think we're just holding it here and stretching, but you're resisting the feet as the feet want to press that ceiling away, but you're also pressing the low back to the mat. So it looks, again, quite passive, but it is still quite active. Now, option to stay here, option to straighten that right leg a bit, but you still stay active through the left side. Bend into the right leg, maybe we straighten the left. Bend into both, maybe straighten both legs. Maybe start to open it up, glue that low back to the mat. Bring everything together, bend into the knees, wrap the arms around the knees, hug those knees in towards your nose. Inhale, exhale, find your Shavasana, your final resting pose. Now, just like I said at the beginning of class, if lying on your back does not serve you, take a moment, pause here, and allow some blocks to rest underneath those thighs, or find any other posture that's going to allow you to completely relax. Some people say that this pose allows you to integrate all of the work that you just did from those postures, gives your body a moment to kind of reset and rest. Allow those shoulders to drop away from your ears. Let everything rest into the mat. When you're ready, just start to find a little movement in the body, whether that's a little wiggle of your fingers, your toes, taking a moment staying on your back, making sure everything is flat into the mat. That's it. When you're ready, come into that nice big full body stretch, reach the arms overhead. Exhale, take a little bend into the knees and then float one knee into the chest at a time. Wrap your arms around your knees. Slowly roll everything over to the right. Take a moment and pause, hold here.
Start to open the eyes. And just like we did earlier, when we lift up, I want the head to hang heavy so that right ear falls to the right shoulder. Lift up, and let the head bring the neck and head back through hand, bring the neck and head back through center. And then find yourself in that seated posture. As you make your way into that seated posture, take your time, come into whatever feels comfortable for you, whether you'd like that Sukhasana. We won't go into too much of the philosophy before our meditation. The meditation is only 5 minutes. It's not very long. And the reason is I want something to be accessible for you. I want you to be able to practice this and feel like it's something that's manageable that you can add to your schedule. But the true essence to yoga is more than just yoga asana. It is, and asana is the postures. And what I love about Hatha yoga is a lot of the other traditions of yoga, especially like Raja yoga, they believed that you needed to work on the mind first. And what Hatha yoga believes is that you need to work on the body so that you can work on the mind, because we're in a different time than when yoga was originally created. The yogis call this time Kali Yuga. And in this time, they believe that the body is going to help you work on the mind and incorporate all the principles. And I'll just read this quick little paragraph. And it says, and it's a part of the sutras, and it says 10 rules of conduct and 10 observances called the yama and niyamas are listed in Raja Yoga. But Hatha Yoga does not place as much emphasis on them. Raja Yoga claims that yama and niyamas must be practiced before commencing Hatha Yoga. It says, control the mind, then purify the body. But in this day and age, too many problems can arise, and an aspirant comes into direct confrontation with his mind at the beginning of his spiritual quest. It's like running from a den of lions into a cage of tigers. Therefore, in Hatha Yoga, the whole system has been designed for the people of the Kali Yuga. Hatha Yoga commences purification of the body, the Shakta karmas, then asana, pranayama, yama, and niyamas can be practiced later when the mind has become stable and its outward going tendencies can be controlled. And I think that's beautiful. I love yoga. I love vinyasa yoga. I feel like, especially in today's day and age, the fast-paced movements allow you to be fully present because you don't know where you're going in the poses, you're breathing, you're moving, but that doesn't always serve our bodies. And that's why we've designed the Hatha Yoga this way, the beginner series this way, so that way your body can be prepared for those different practices. And I'm just going to lightly touch over the 8 limbs of yoga so you understand the different levels of yoga. And this is traditionally how Raja Yoga assesses yoga. We have the yamas and the niyamas. These are ethical and spiritual principles. So the yamas are the ethical and moral principles. You have ahimsa, which means non-violence. This is not just violence as I'm not going to go up and knock somebody out. This is also violence in our thoughts and in our words. And I have, and in yoga practice, especially vinyasa, I try to place a heavy importance on this because sometimes we can go through our practice and thoughts can come up and be like, oh, I should be able to do this, or I can't believe I can do this, or you see someone next to you getting into a different posture and you're like, start comparing yourself, or judgments start to come up. So that ahimsa isn't just towards other people, but it's also in towards our thoughts to ourselves and along with our thoughts towards others. Then you have astya. Again, it's like a non-violence, but it's a non-stealing. So not necessarily non-violence, but not stealing, right? Makes sense. We don't steal in this day and age, or we don't ever steal. We shouldn't steal. Then it's satya, which is our truth. And I like to preface this with, is that truth hurtful? is that truth unkind? We can always preface our truth in a way that doesn't have to be mean or shitty, right? Sometimes someone does something and the truth might hurt them, but that's not really your problem. But what is your problem, or what is your responsibility is, can I say this in a way as kind as possible? You can't control how others show up, and you can't control how others are going to take your information, but you can do your best to control what you say to them in the way that, and how you communicate in the way that honors your boundaries, but still not shitty. Brahmacharya, moderation. This is a great one for our day and age. How can we find a little moderation in things? I feel like we're in a culture of overconsumption. I'm very bad at this with social media. Can I have a little more moderation with how much I'm scrolling? You know, in this day and age, we have work, we have things that rely on us to be on social media, and we can use that as a little excuse. But again, that's just an example. You can figure out how that fits in your life. A parigraha is non-greed. So not being greedy, simple, right? And those first ones are the yamas. Niyamas is sausha, cleanliness, right? Keeping your home clean. When I have a mess around me, my brain feels messy. And it's not necessarily dirty, but when I know I have to fold those clothes, I have stacks of paper over here. When everything is tidied up and put away, I feel like my mind functions better. And that's the same concept as well. Also, cleanliness in our thoughts, right? Tapas, self-discipline. Santosha, contentment. I think this is a big one. It's so easy to want the next thing. It's so easy to wish we looked like this. It's so easy to wish we had this. But we're never really taught to just be content and grateful for what is right now. Grateful that we have a home over us, grateful that our children are healthy, grateful that we have our health, or maybe we don't, but maybe we have good doctors that are helping us. How can we start to find a little contentment right where we're at? And I feel like that opens the doors for more to come in. Svidhyaya is self-study, and that's what you're participating in right now. You're learning postures and poses to help your body, to help your mind. You're noticing and witnessing what's going on in your body as you move through the practice. And this part of the practice is a bit of self-study, right? Opening yourself up to learn the different principles, to learn more about the practice. I always mess this one up. Ishvara Parichara, me in Sanskrit. And it's surrendering to a higher power. And whether you believe in God, a divine, Hindus believe in multiple gods, knowing that there's a higher power, and sometimes just surrendering to that you are taken care of, and that the universe, I like to say, the universe has your back, and that you are taken care of. Then we go into asana, our postures, the movement. Pranayama is the breath work that we started the class with. So taking your time to breathe. That simple, complete yogic breath that we did today is nothing fancy. It's not super challenging. It's not anything crazy, but it's very effective. And if you do only one practice, that can be the only one that you do. Coming back to that deep belly breathing, and that itself will help a lot. Pratyahara is sensory withdrawal. We are in a day and age where lights, camera, action, we've got our phones, we're always connected to screens. And sometimes we need to allow ourselves, you can't see on the camera, I've got a lamp on, but up here, I've got a red light to help my circadian rhythms. As it's time for bed, I'll turn that light off. And then it starts to get red so that my body can start to calm down and get ready for the night. That's not necessarily what it means exactly, but I feel like those are ways that in modern days that we can actually incorporate this. We can't do what they did and go into a cave and meditate for weeks on the time to just withdraw from everything. That's not really going to work for us in our day and age. But how can we start to reset those circadian rhythms so our body can start to operate in a way that's going to help serve us rather than fight against us? Dhyana is concentration on a single point. So later on in our 6-week series, we are going to learn a light meditation where you're looking at a candle and you're looking at it, you're closing your eyes and you're visualizing it, and then you're looking at it and visualizing it. So it's really just allowing yourself to concentrate on a single point. Dhyana is meditation or stilling the mind. Shavasana does that. Our meditation that we will go into will do that. And then finally, Samadhi. The ultimate goal of yoga is oneness with the divine. So me putting on these classes doesn't mean you're going to get all of these in one day. I've been doing yoga since I was 13. I struggle with a lot of it, and I'm human. I think the purpose is it's called a yoga practice. And my goal is for you is to start your own. It's called sadhana. Sadhana is it's a discipline. It's a practice to allow yourself to take that little sacred time for yourself so you can perform optimally for yourself and those around you, right? It's a true form of self-care. Sometimes we say self-care is having a glass of wine and laying back and watching a movie, but there's true self-care is really allowing your mind to have stillness and allowing yourself to nurture your body in a way that's going to help you perform better so you can show up for the people that you love the most. And so again, like I said, I will send you guys a little review of what we've done today and a little way of how to incorporate it in your own sadhana schedule if you'd like. You can do whatever you'd like. But we're going to end this on a light meditation for just 5 minutes, just a few moments. So I want you to, again, find a comfortable seated posture. If you've been in this cross-legged posture, you are welcome to switch your cross-legged if you'd like. I want you to allow your sit bones to be comfortable, and I want you to have that nice straight spine. Allow your shoulders to drop away from your ears and grow tall through the crown of your head. From here, can you take a breath in through the nose? Open the mouth, just let the air go. Draw the air in through the nose. And allow the air to release from the nose. A meditation can be as simple as witnessing your breath. Noticing as the air flows in through the nostrils. Noticing as it flows out. Can you bring your awareness to the shoulders? Notice if you started to hunch through the shoulders, can you feel them gently draw back and down? Feel a little lift of your chest. Feel a slight lengthening through the back of the neck and head. Bring your awareness to your right foot. All you're doing is shifting that attention and awareness to your right foot. Noticing if you feel any tingling sensation, any heat, any warmth. And traveling up that right leg, feeling everything from the sole of the right foot to the right hip. And then the left palm. Bringing awareness to the left palm again. Noticing if you feel any tingling sensations, any pulsing. And then notice everything from the left palm up to the left shoulder. And then jumping over to the right palm. Can you feel both hands simultaneously? And then from the right palm all the way up to the right shoulder. Can you feel both arms at the same time? And then all the way down to the left foot. from the left foot to the left hip, noticing the calf, the knee, the thigh. And can you bring your awareness to both legs? And then start to shift your way up to the belly, the chest, back down to the low back. Working your way up the spine. You feel everything from the neck down. And back up to the head, noticing the jaw. Back to the nose, noticing as the air enters in through the nose and out. Then soften that space right in between the brows. And work your way all the way up to the crown of your head. Take just another minute here. Allow yourself to kind of enjoy that silence and stillness in the mind. Take a deep breath in. And let it go. Keeping the eyes closed, bring the hands together. And allow yourself to create a little friction with the hands, a little warmth with the palms. Keeping the eyes closed, allow those palms to cover the eyes when you're ready and you feel like you've built up enough heat with the hands. And then allow yourself to open the eyes with the hands covering you. And then allow the hands to rest back into your lap. And you are all done. My name's Brittany. Thank you so much for spending the last 75 minutes, 75, 80 minutes with me. Enjoy the rest of your night.